Yo, it's me, and the past 2 weeks have been solely dedicated to grinding and developing a route for RLcraft. And basically, RLcraft is a mod pack for Minecraft, but it's a fairly infamous mod pack known for being either difficult or annoying. But this is coming from someone who's never actually sat down and learned to play RLcraft properly. I just picked it up as a speed game. This seed started off so nicely, and the main thing being the village that gave me 10 steak and 8 chicken, because you need at least 5 of either of the meats to make a beast treat, which is necessary for completing the run later. And funnily enough, out of all of the materials you need to beat the game, getting either cooked steak or chicken is kinda one of the more annoying ones. Obviously, cows and chicken will give you what you need to make the treats, but there's also jousts and aspids, which you can use as substitutes for the exact same craft. But who cares when the village just gives you everything you need and you don't even need to cook it? Anyways, what's happening now is the most fun part of the run, where you just cheese and loot battle towers endlessly until you have all of your pearls and rods. Because why not put all the pearls and rods you need in one specific structure? And not just that, these structures have the most simple generating pattern. It took an entire 20 minutes of creative testing, but if you go to one battle tower, every other battle tower is diagonal from each other. And for a while, that was a pretty good strat, because once you started moving, you could start traveling and get to the next tower, but getting to the next tower would take you about a minute or two to get to, because they do generate pretty far from each other. However, the more important thing is that battle towers always generate northwest of your spawn point, much closer to you. And in your run, you'll need to loot about 5 or 6 battle towers to get enough pearls and rods and XP, because you need a certain level to use Eyes of Ender. Also, grappling hook beats golem. But here's the point I'm getting at. Spawning next to a tower is a lot faster than traveling all the way to the next one. So what if you could just spawn by a tower, again and again? The potion you just saw was a recall potion, and it does just that. And they are given to you by battle towers. So you can loot a battle tower, and it gives you the materials to loot more battle towers. It's really cool. But next priority is to sleep in a hammock to force it to be night, because hammocks just act as reverse beds, so you can force it to be nighttime, because pretty much every single mount you're gonna want is gonna spawn at night. And because that village already gave me everything I needed to start taming, I can start looting battle towers while looking for a mount to spawn. And the mounts are the reason that you need 2 different types of treats, because one mount takes chicken and the other mount takes steak. So getting both types of treats if possible in a run is super safe. And speaking of mounts, I've thought of a name for this strat or route that I think is pretty baller. I called this route where you loot battle towers first and get your mount last after looting everything post-mount. Yeah, okay, it's not really that cool, I guess. But I don't care, post-mount's meta, because every other top run would get a flying mount before, and spend 40 seconds longer between each tower flying to it, because they wouldn't have or use recall potions. And if you're using a mount to get to towers specifically, it's gonna take about 40 seconds to a minute between each tower, as opposed to 10 seconds and drinking a potion. And when you start looting 5 or 6 towers, that time adds up a ton. Now, I've talked about flying mounts a lot, and that's because you literally need a flying mount to beat the game in RLcraft. You can play the entire run without a mount until the end fight, because there are mobs all over the end that will just one-shot you and end your run. So it's a lot easier to just fly over the mobs and ignore them the whole time. And mounts may be the thing that save your run, but they're also the thing that will kill your run over and over, because getting a mount to spawn is painfully annoying. Very often you'll need to travel a lot before you get a mount to actually spawn in a biome. So once you're done using recall potions and have everything you need, you overlap triangulating the stronghold with finding a mount, because that takes plenty of travel on its own. Man. Yeah, don't mind this lag. This is pretty average, especially when you're constantly respawning yourself. About a third or a quarter of your spawns in RLcraft are going to be inside of a structure or the ocean. And when I say inside of a structure, I mean you are inside of the block. Or you could just have the worst day of your life and recall beside a dragon, because once you've aggroed a dragon without armor, you're just instantly dead. Which makes farming towers one of the more scary parts of the run, because you need to be on guard when recalling. Otherwise, you might just take head damage and die instantly. Or everything will load in at once and you just have no time to react. And as I mentioned before, you will spawn in a block sometimes. and you need to have either a pickaxe or shovel ready because suffocation damage goes straight to your head and body. And if your head or body takes too much damage on their own, you're just dead. It doesn't matter how many hearts you have above your hotbar, you're just dead. So that's why skeletons can headshot you, and that's also why I have a shield in my offhand. But there's nothing like some golden apples that can't heal an entire arrow inside of your skull, because you get those out of battle towers too. It kinda gives me the vibe that battle towers were intended for speedrunning, as ridiculous as that sounds, but they're just too good. On the way to this battle tower, there was a little bit of a sea serpent to my left, so if skeletons weren't annoying enough, you just turn your render distance down to 2 and unload the thing. Abracadabra. Also, that's really helpful for sirens, because if you're anywhere within like 60 miles of a siren, it will just lure you in and then kill your run. But if you just change your render distance to 2 and get rid of it, then it can't. You won't need to do that all the time though, because as long as you have 2 wooden planks, you can turn them into buttons and make earplugs, which are specifically designed to mute the sirens, so it's not even a problem. Now every RLcraft run that kills the dragon, including mine, will reload chunks a lot, because RLcraft has the really trippy chunk loading, so if you spam reload chunks, you can see all entities including chests and mobs. And this is just allowed on the leaderboard, so of course I'm going to use it, but it's mainly used so you can see a flying mount, because a lot of the times they'll be hiding above or in the trees. So 99% of the time when you see me spam reload my chunks, it's to get more visibility and see if I can spot what I need. One of the mounts is called an Epion, and they spawn most commonly in dark oak biomes, which I just happen to be in, but they also spawn in, I believe, any temperate biome as long as it's a full moon. And since this is a speedrun, the very first night you're going to be looking is a full moon by default. But even if you have everything you need biome-wise and food-wise, they still seem like one of the more rare mounts that I've come across. And then there's the Rock, which is the other flying mount. They spawn similarly to the Epion, except they seem a lot less rare. I don't actually have proof to back that up, but they seem significantly less rare. The rocks function the same way as Epions, except they take chicken treats instead of steak treats, and they look a lot more ugly. And then there's the Ryko, which is the last of the flying mounts, and it's just a reskin of the rock, except it looks like a seagull. The only difference being it's very biome specific. I have only seen 2 Rykos ever because they only spawn in the ocean, hence the seagull part of it. The next thing to worry about is leveling, because you need at least a magic level of 16 to throw or use an Eye of Ender, and all of your XP comes from battle towers, of course. And the only other ability that you need to worry about is agility, which when you're level 2 you can use a bow with any arrows, like any arrows. And most of the time when you loot your first battle tower, you're gonna pick up TNT out of it to make TNT arrows, which pretty much do what you'd expect. They explode on impact. And you basically need them in the end fight for destroying the crystals, because crystals are a little bit different than they are in vanilla. I actually didn't end up getting TNT myself though in my first tower, so I had to dig sand and make my own. But as long as you have just 1 TNT, that is the bare minimum requirement, which is enough, but having more is really nice because it helps you do extra damage to the dragon. But the main arrows that you need to worry about are diamond arrows, which act as if you have power 5, but you can do it with a completely unenchanted bow. So essentially it just puts power 5 on the arrow, but you don't need any level requirement to use it. Most of the time getting diamond arrows is easy to manage because a lot of the time you'll get a few diamond blocks out of each battle tower from the top. The most annoying part is getting feathers because you kind of have to guess which floor, somewhere near the middle and bottom of the tower, has feathers in the chests. This is the point in the run where triangulation starts, since all levels and pearls and rods were out of the way. There's nothing to do now but to look for the stronghold and a mount at the same time. And speaking of mounts, I was lucky enough to get a rock right above me when I was done, and also a blighted mob, so I had to run. And then the rock picked me up because it's cool. And I didn't know you could do this, but you can tame and mount a rock while it's attacking you, so that was pretty lucky on my part, because I most likely would have died to that blighted zombie that was chasing me. Most of the time during your triangulation split, you'll have extra Eyes of Ender to throw, so you can just throw an Eye of Ender and let it burn because you won't need it, but in this case I had 12, and it still wasn't a bad play to let the eyes just burn, because it's not very uncommon to come across another tower while triangulating and refill your pearls. But it had been a long time since I had gotten a flying mount until this run, so I decided to play it safe and picked up each of my eyes. RLcraft's
Need to get out of
temperature
this fucking
system is
biome.
pretty sensitive to what Y level you're at, and obviously if you're flying you're going to be higher up in the sky, which makes you colder, and hypothermia is a thing. That's pretty cool. But nothing like some golden apples can't warm you up. Oh, your arteries are frozen? Well, you could just eat a golden apple and you're chilling. But that requires having golden apples, and this run really didn't have any golden apples, so it's really lucky
is
that
it
it
done
changed
yet?
into a regular temperate forest and I could not just lose the run to a biome. I hadn't thrown an eye for a few hundred blocks because I was reluctant of getting any eye breaks, and traveling enough in hopes of finding another battle tower actually ended up working so I could get enough pearls and guarantee an end
relog.
enter. You might have seen that, but my RLcraft was kinda dying, so I had to relog into the world because that's what happens when you put 125
good.
mods in a mod pack and give it only Optifine. But back on the topic of triangulation, triangulation in RLcraft is significantly worse than it is in 1.16, or any other version for that matter, because the F3 menu doesn't have chords or an angle, so there's no way for you to distance estimate and see how far away the stronghold is with the F3 menu. You kinda just have to eyeball it, no pun intended. The only other option is there is a way to distance estimate using 2 eyes of Ender and no F3, and it tells you about how far away the stronghold is,
Oh wow.
but you can't really judge how far away the stronghold is when you don't have chords. So yay, it's just guaranteed useless. Would have been really nice in this run. I hate to admit it, but I actually thought the eye I threw just turned backwards and completely lost my sense of direction. So I ended up throwing about 1 or 2 more eyes than I needed to, assuming that it was really, really close. Getting gravel here was really clutch because you need regular arrows to craft TNT arrows. That's the only way. But with diamond arrows, you don't need flint at all. You use diamond as the tip. This route has worked out really well for RLcraft because any run that's played out from this point easily shaves off a few minutes from any top run. The fastest RLcraft runs get their flying mounts at around 12 minutes and then start looting towers. But with this route, you're already triangulating and have a mount before 12 minutes. Being able to front load all of your eyes and levels before the mount is significantly faster, and it shows. Because world record enters end at around 20 minutes and 10 seconds, but using this route I've had multiple enters that range from 15 minutes to 17 minutes. And not only is flying to each tower individually slower, every run doesn't start the run with a battle tower. A battle tower has everything you need to start a run and continue it. Every other runner would loot a different structure to prepare for a battle tower instead of just going directly into it, which loses around 2 to 5 minutes on their run. Now, as goes for general mechanics and just little bits of time you can save over the run, RLcraft runs on 1.12, so mouse movement is really bad since 1.13 is when they updated mouse movement to actually have raw input. And for inventory management and crafting, RLcraft has its own kind of clicking and dragging mechanics when you craft. It's not bad on its own, but again, this is an unoptimized mod pack, so it only registers half of your clicks correctly. Now's the best time to start burning eyes, since there's about 4 eyes to spare before I'm down to 12 eyes of Ender. It's fine to just leave them behind and haul. I was worried about hypothermia again, but then it just goes straight from a cold biome into a savanna. Also, it's morning time, so I don't know how that happened. The funny thing is there wasn't even really any punishment for forgetting the angle and direction of the eye originally, because it still ended up snapping really hard to the right without me knowing how far away it was for real. Because once I saw the angle change a little bit, I threw 1 more eye and I got a perfect 90-degree snap and I knew exactly where to go. Okay, so reloading chunks. That's cool for finding entities, right? It's also cool for looking underground. And there's this cool thing in the ground that I've been throwing eyes to find. It's called a stronghold. You kinda need it. The last thing you need to do before digging down is to soul bind your mount so that you can dismiss and summon it wherever you want. And that's important because that's the only way you're getting your mount into the end. Unless you drag your pet into the end portal, but you want your run to be fast, right? Reloading chunks worked really well here because I could see the portal room up there to the right, which unfortunately was under a dragon, so I had to start digging down earlier. It's not uncommon for the portal room to not be visible when reloading chunks just because of how the way chunks render and unrender. But luckily it was visible before I even started digging down, so I knew where to go right as I got in. Digging down's kind of scary because you're reloading chunks while doing so to see the stronghold. Also, I don't know what that mob is, so I'm just gonna ignore it. And I don't know why this can happen, I don't know if this is a 112 thing or a mod pack thing, but the portal room can be completely separate from the starter staircase and the rest of the stronghold when generating, because I have had a few runs die to a completely detached portal room that is not at all related to the stronghold, or is just a bare portal room in the middle of the ocean. It was very tense navigating the stronghold because I was a one-shot to just about any mob, since my head was on orange health and I had no gapples through the whole run. Any skeleton or even spider or zombie could just one-shot me at any moment. I saw portal room again and misjudged it being down mid. I had the right direction at first, but I just kind of messed it up, which is a little embarrassing, but it's fine. The only thing to worry about at this point is to make sure all the materials I need were there, and the only thing I could think of were to get more arrows to make my TNT arrows. So before entering, I sat down, pulled the gravel in from earlier, and this is the worst part of the run. This should be about a 16-minute end enter, right? That's really good. Well, it's not gonna be a 16-minute end enter. It's gonna be a bit slower.
Want at least 2 flint?
I don't have much commentary. I'm kind of just digging gravel. I think a stone shovel would be cooler, but I didn't feel like mining stone. Because mining stone gives you rocks instead of cobblestone. If you just got cobblestone, that would make too much sense. You gotta mine rocks and then craft the rocks into cobblestone. What are gravel fun facts? I think gravel's kind of annoying. It used to look like TV static in old versions. It managed to break my entire wood shovel, so I had to craft another one. You know, I didn't actually feel like entering at this point. I just actually wanted to dig 30 more gravel. I could have gotten the flint if I wanted to, but I just didn't. Maybe just like 20 more seconds and the end will be ready when I'm done with gravel. I can't go in the end too early, then it would be a good run. Just like 10 more gravel maybe. Okay, this is the last line of gravel. I was gonna take 1 flint at this point. I had 3 TNT, so I wanted at least 3 flint so I could make as many TNT arrows as possible. But at that point, I did not even care. The gravel just had to put a little bit of insanity in me before entering the end, but it was just a matter of crafting my arrows before. And now for the end fight. The end is why you actually need a mount, because the Ender Dragon isn't hard enough on its own, so they just gave the end about 30 other mobs that can kill you. And being able to fly with explosive arrows allows you to shoot down the crystals, and especially the caged crystals, way easier. Ideally, you'll swap between using TNT arrows to break the crystals and diamond arrows to damage the dragon during the fight. But if you're lucky enough to have a ton of TNT arrows, you can actually use them to damage the dragon while it's perched, because you can treat it like a bed or an anchor. There are also these Enderman towers that have crystals in them, but you can still take them out without the explosive arrows. These caged ones are the main problem, since you can't shoot through the bottom corner like you can in new versions. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I only practiced end fights for about 20 minutes total ever while playing RLcraft, and it'll show throughout the fight. If I knew how to actually play the end fight, this would have taken me about 2 minutes and it would have been a sub 20, but I'm just gonna let this play through because I forgot to upgrade my arrows so that they do more damage in a special menu. I only remembered halfway through, and even then I only upgraded the recharge speed of them. So thanks for watching, enjoy the infight if you can, and subscribe!
Alright, well, let's just shoot it. Do I not have, like... arrows are doing nothing. Why do they feel so weak? Oh, ow. think when I go down, it's like shooting really bad arrows or something. Oh, there's a... Okay, I'll just stay away from that. I didn't know there was a crystal there. Oh, get away from there. My infights are so bad. Shoot the arrows. Why do they feel so weak? Please just die in time. Maybe. I'll take it. I don't care. That was the slowest infight of my life. I don't care. I entered the end 4 minutes faster, 3 minutes faster than the world record after spending 2 minutes on gravel. I don't care. I'm done with this. I'm tired of sitting for 6 hours doing the same thing just to not get a mount. I don't know why my in-games suck, and I don't care. Bye. Oh wait, I should get the seed. Give me a second. Before that... slowly scroll through this. God, I can like focus on 116 in Skyblock now. I had to relog too, so that's a thing. Also, hi Silver. There you go.